Okay, everybody. So, here we go. What a day is all I have to say. Is what a day. I ended up going to traffic court. I had to pay a $400 ticket for rolling through a stop sign. Incredible stuff. And then my buddy Ryan Beard messaged me and said, "Hey, Papa Got, I did a video about your take on Colleen Ballinger," and I said, "Thanks, fantastic. I love it." Everything aside, the first thing I really want to say is that I have like a 50-50 feeling that like Adam McIntyre is going to react to Ryan's video, and I haven't watched it yet. That's how I do my content. I live react for anybody who might be new to the video that I'm going to post. Hopefully he'll watch mine instead, because mine's, I know it'll be a reactception. But even if you disagree with me, just give me a fair shake, I guess. Like, hey, listen to what I have to say. If you disagree, do your thing. Say what you need to say. Understandable. But hopefully you can at least give my perspective, put it out there as a defense to it. So that's the biggest thing, more than anything else. What I will say is, like I said, I live react. I scrolled through this a little bit. I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little disappointed in the title, and I'm a little disappointed in the video, mostly because I have 3 videos on this topic. They go in a specific order. The first video is I was just reacting to a Marky video. Their video was I think 8 minutes, right? So it was just kind of, people would ask me to watch it. I'm like, okay, I had no education on this topic. Kind of popped in, looked at that. People gave me criticism in the comments. So I even pinned it. I said, I see some people, I see some of the feedback saying I'm missing a lot of context, so I'm going to do a deep dive. And that's what I did. I even linked it in this video here. It's a pinned comment. I edited it and added this in. And I did a 6-hour deep dive on this topic, right? And so, even again, if you disagree, I did my best to be very thoughtful. I really did. I really did. The biggest regret here was the lack of understanding of how much this hurt Adam, which wasn't communicated in this video. It's not Marky's fault. It's my fault for not doing a deep dive. But the point is this was a slight little, a small, was it 8 minutes? I think it was. It was a little recap,
So today it
was 11 minutes, right? And so going into this, I saw a lot of the raw pain and frustration, and I understand that. And I can respect that, and I can respect the vulnerability. And that's what this video is. Now, I understand it's 6 hours long, and it seems like Ryan didn't go through that video. And I know, 6 hours. You might as well watch 3 Marvel movies, of course. Most of it seems to reference this last video, which I'll get into in a sec. But I would say that, as a content creator, I think that my voice is really low. Oh, my God. As a content creator, I would generally expect some, maybe do a little more due diligence and at least watch the first bit of this video here. The first half hour, I think completely, if you watch the first half hour even of this 6-hour video, you realize okay, my energy is very different. There's right. And so I made a mistake in the first one with not knowing enough of the context and not being empathetic enough. And then the second one, I'm pretty happy with this as my general take. And then I made this third video, which was supposed to be I know you're not going to watch my 6-hour video, although it has more views. I guess people enjoy very long form content from me. So here's my feelings, because I think things are getting out of hand. And I think with all the moving parts, it's impossible to give you a perfect breakdown. But I think I did an okay job here, What I will say is the videos included in here, by the way, are Adam's first video, Colleen's response, then that Cody, that person, Jesus, Cody's video with the first 12 minutes of it, because then Adam's video that reacts to the rest of it, and then I think another video from Adam, and then a Twitter video, and there's a lot of thing going on there. Anyway, yeah, that's my biggest take. The narrative is getting out of control. My general take is this is not grooming. I would say Colleen is an incredibly irresponsible person, and has boundary issues. There's nothing predatory that what I see about what she did. I know people's first response will say no, that grooming doesn't have to be. Just relax for a second. Grooming isn't really bad by itself, right? We know grooming on its face is just preparing somebody to do a thing, right? You can groom somebody to be the next manager at a place. You can groom somebody to be an Eagle Scout. You can groom somebody to be a YouTuber. Right? And historically, we've used that word in a positive way. And then then there's sexual grooming, right? Then there's the intentional, methodical process of setting a child up for sexual exploitation. And that's where the allegation starts. And then it starts going, well, no, it's not sexual grooming. It's The problem I have is that there might be forms of manipulation. I think that there are some aspects that are overplayed. Manipulation-wise, it doesn't seem like Colleen had like necessarily this massively manipulative perspective, which I talk about in here. There's many instances, like for instance, when she made him the social media intern, and she's like, "Oh, maybe I'll pay you after things go well." Then things didn't go well. That whole tweet went out. She got a lot of backlash, and she, in her messages, seemed to put some of the blame on Adam, and that's not right. But that's not manipulative. And she couldn't handle the heat because she's a loser, right? But the narrative now is Adam doesn't even think that she was ever intended to pay her. And it's like, that's not communicated, right? It shouldn't have been a falling out. I believe he was the one, his last message to her was, "I'm logged out of all your stuff. Hopefully you do well," kind of a thing. So if anything, I could see why maybe she thought he was breaking the relationship. And I still understand, like, you know, she shouldn't have put any of the blame on him. She should have been an adult and been responsible. It's stuff like that. It's stuff like, you know, "Oh, I was supposed to go to a wax museum with her and also go out to lunch." And then she just changed it to this lunch. And then he showed up late and she only hung out for 5 minutes. But he was like, "Oh, she didn't even want to hang out with me." But if you read the text messages, he showed up late. My point isn't to blame Adam. My point is that Adam is somebody who for the past 3 years has been bullied by everybody in, it seems like, the sphere he exists in. And that's, of course, going to it's going to upset him deeply. Like, this is the thing. The situation with Colleen is like half of the equation. The other half is, for the past 3 years, people have been relentlessly going after Adam, and it's the same people who are now like, "No, we're sorry, we made a mistake." But that pressure, it's so weird to communicate, because it's a very privileged job that I'm in and everybody else is in this sphere. But I think a lot of content creators do know that it can be a little bit mentally frustrating. It kind of gets to you sometimes. You got to get in your own head. You know, maybe views are up, views are down. People are going after you. People are doing this, and it kind of warps your brain in a way that is worse than what has happened to you originally. And I think a lot of his anger, resentment, and frustration comes from that. And I want to acknowledge that. And I want people to acknowledge that, like, some of these people that are now in defense of Adam, and that's a good thing, we're part of the problem, you know, because it seems like we're very disproportionate to Adam this entire time. Even if the original narrative paints Adam in a bad light, which I don't even think it does, people were hammering him so hard. And I think that we don't look at that enough. And I think that that's a part of the factor. And that's a lot of my video, and that's a lot of my frustration. Right. And so that's my take. When people are like, "Well, no, it's a different type of grooming, it's manipulative, this, that, and the other thing," what you're trying to do is you're trying to co-opt, you're trying to take that energy, that sexual exploitation energy, and you're trying to apply this to that situation, and it doesn't exist. There are inappropriate moments, of course. When the Q&A question came up, like, "Oh, what Q&A questions should I do?" And Colleen's like, "Haha, ask if you're a virgin. What's your favorite position?" Inappropriate, of course. And if Colleen lost her career, I don't care. She means nothing to me. I don't care about Colleen at all. But understand that, like, the inappropriateness doesn't equal sexual predatorizing. And that's like a big deal. A lot of people also say to me, "Papa God, if it was a guy, you'd be acting different." I wouldn't be acting differently. I don't do that. I do my best to be as unbiased as possible, right? I'm a privileged guy. I'm a cisgendered, white, heterosexual man. And all jokes aside, I don't have a lot of emotional connection to a lot of things. And maybe you could say, "Hey, maybe that's why you don't feel as emotionally connected to this." Maybe you're right. But also, I usually, it's, you know, just trying to be unbiased. So that was basically what the video is about. I think Adam was wronged. Part of that wrongdoing is from the community, not just Colleen, but it's also not grooming. That's my take there. And it's more sensitive in my second video. And in my third video, I try to kind of do a good job at summing it up in a 37-minute thing. So I know that was a lot of pretext. Like I said, the silly goose thing happened in the first video. It's just like a silly thing I say. "Oh, she's being a silly goose." It's not reflective of the way that I feel very quickly. That, you know, this perspective was June 9th. I did the follow-up June 10th was when I did, like, people were like, "I don't like this take." And it was the next day that I was like, "Okay, let's do this." Like, I'm going to set aside the entire night. And we did like a 6-hour live stream, you know, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, let's get this started. A little trigger warning here.
Hey, what's up?
Hi.
So I'm sure by now a lot of you are aware that in the past couple weeks, a lot of information has come out about the YouTuber Colleen Ballinger and her
I believe it's Colleen. Come on, Ryan.
interactions in the past with fans of hers that were minors at the time. If you want a comprehensive breakdown of the situation,
you can go to this video here. little bit of a joke.
I recommend going and checking out Adam McIntyre's channel. He's been putting out a bunch of videos documenting his experiences with Colleen back when he was a minor. I'm not going to go through every single accusation against Colleen, but the primary accusations are that in the past she had a group chat with a lot of her fans who were primarily minors, where she asked them inappropriate questions like whether or not they're virgins.
This is one of the things I really want to get people around. This is one of the things that bothers me. It's my camera apparently, because it just can't be unblurry. This is I think the biggest thing that bothers me. I just want you to just hear me out for a second. It's the framing. Just give me like 2 seconds.
What their favorite sexual positions are, and she asked.
This is the problem that I have.
Like whether
it's the framing of the topic, and I feel like if you're, whether it's intentional or not, and it feels intentional, if you're intentionally leaving out context when you display a piece of information, then you're not being honest. Or you're not doing your due diligence. You're not representing this situation correctly. It doesn't mean, my position isn't Colleen is innocent. My position is that there is a spot that's more, it's not even in the middle, okay? Let's do a quick thing. This is the spot. Right? Here's Colleen is innocent. Here's Colleen is like guilty, right? She's innocent. In this perspective, Adam's just crazy. Blah, blah, blah. In this one where she's guilty, she's a fucking groomer that needs to lose her kids. That's the energy. Here's where I think she's at, right? Very inappropriate. If she lost her platform, I don't care, but it's not a grooming situation. She seems like kind of a dumb person. But the framing of this, she didn't ask, "Are you a virgin?" It was in the context of like, hey guys, I'm going a Q&A. What question should I ask? Oh, ask if you're a virgin. Oh, what sex position? It's inappropriate. But without that little bit of context, shifts it a little bit to understand that this wasn't actually intended to ascertain this information. Because if she was just asking, are you a virgin? Then that's sexual predatory, right? But if she's asking in the Q&A, that's massively inappropriate, but the intention of trying to predatorize a child is not there. Right? Especially since she obviously wasn't trying to be sexual with Adam. It's a small thing, but it's so important to be on the nose when it comes to the accuracy of these topics. That's it. That's where I'm coming from. That's where a lot of my perspective comes from. Okay?
Whether or not they're virgins, what their favorite sexual positions are, and she asked Adam, who was a minor at the time, to send her a picture of his ass.
Yeah, right. And with that, when Adam's like, oh, my butt looks good, and she's like, send pics, she's like, send pics. The question here, again, inappropriate. Do you think that she really wanted them, or do you think that she was being very inappropriate? That's the difference between whether this is grooming or not, and it's not grooming. That's where we're at. It's massively inappropriate. She thought that this was an appropriate thing to say. It's not. But again, these are the little bits of information that we really need to tack on to.
And she asked Adam, who was a minor at the time, to send her a picture of his ass. She also sent Adam a pair of her underwear one time as a fan giveaway, and
yeah, it was very inappropriate.
She used to do live shows where she would bring children up on stage and make inappropriate jokes with these children.
When this is inappropriate too. The problem is, and it's something we need to understand too, is that, like, I guess her character was that she was like a dumb idiot kid, whatever. This is obviously not appropriate. But understand that all the parents took their kids to these events and thought that this was just edgy humor. That doesn't make it okay. But what you need to understand is that, like, a lot of these come down to inappropriate boundaries for Colleen and the parents as well. The kids think it's fine. Colleen thinks it's fine. The parents think it's fine. It's all chalked up to edgy humor. And this stuff was like 3+ years ago. And a big part of, the argument that I go into is I talk about the way we are shifting socially. This never should have been appropriate. But I made inappropriate jokes. Specifically, remember the old enough to bleed, old enough to read? Remember that joke? I made that 3 years ago, right? Those types of jokes used to be appropriate for people. Now, the joke was, if she's old enough to bleed, she's old enough to breed. Thank you very much to Andres Lopez for the advice. Because at the time, he allegedly slept with a 14-year-old girl, 23, and it was a joking call out to that, right? But still, I should never made the joke. But I thought I was like, okay, it's just a little edgy. And that's when it comes down to on-the-line humor. It's like, okay, this is an online humor. It's acceptable now, not acceptable later. And things move so fast socially because of the internet, which is not a bad thing, that sometimes we get whiplash and we think like, oh my God, like you have to, even 3 years ago today, things were a little bit different. Doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it okay. But this is the difference between inappropriate versus some kind of predatory. And that's what we don't see predatory. That's a big point that I'm trying to make here. Right? That's the big point, is that it's not predatory. That's my number. That's really my number one thing.
One of these jokes was spreading their legs wide open in a very exposed manner. She would also allegedly trauma dump to these children about her bad experiences in her marriage, and she got Adam to do work for her.
Yeah, so the trauma dump thing, I saw it. It was a lot of her being like catty about her ex-husband, which was shitty and inappropriate. I don't know if I would use the word trauma dumping. I think that's a little bit disproportionate.
Helping her create content,
Sure.
but she never paid him.
Sure, and to that, Adam was a big fan. When watching Adam, he was a fan since he was 11. He was doing fan pages since he was, I think, 13 and 14. He liked her a lot. And this is one of those things that gets into a parasocial relationship. And this is another thing that I brought up, is that parasocial conversations weren't conversations that we had until somewhat recently. Parasocial relationships always existed. Some people knew about it, but for the most part, this is something that's somewhat newish. Like the past 2 years of like really understanding that somebody, especially an adult, being in some kind of a position of power, could have an impact that's unintended on people. And there are people who are fans who would love to help make content, and they hope that they'll be able to work with Colleen. So the unpaid thing by itself doesn't really bother me. Necessarily, given the context. It really comes up against that situation where she asked, like, oh, maybe we can intern and maybe I'll pay you later. And then they had a falling out because of a joke tweet that like Colleen gave the okay for, and then she put a little, and then she should have taken the responsibility for that. And I think that her venting to Adam, and one of those messages, she said something along the lines of like, I would never say that myself. And I'm assigning an inflection to the tone because it's through a text. That upset him, and he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna log out, and I hope hope things go well for you. Keep your head up." That was basically what he had said to her. That doesn't show like this intentional manipulation, right?
In this video, we're going to operate off of the assumption that these allegations are true, and if these allegations are true, I would label all of these allegations as various forms of child exploitation.
Maybe, but if the problem is that like if you're going to operate based on all these things are true, when your context of the topics weren't very good when you were displaying them, this video can't, based on your own assertion, be accurate, because you're just saying they're just going to say that these are all true. Even if you disagree with me, I think I just went through for like 5 minutes talking about the specific. Again, you could disagree, but I'm trying to be so thoughtful, and I like really went into like the depths of like trying to understand every single aspect of this. So even if you think my interpretation is wrong, I'm doing so much to try to be accurate. I'm not trying to be a contrarian. I don't want to disagree. This isn't like, it's not fun to engage in this discourse. It's annoying and it's stressful, but I'm trying to be accurate because definitions of words mean a lot to me. Especially since like I've talked about like I have some personal things when it comes to very loaded topics like this, and they get to me, and it means a lot to me. And proportionality of this topic is very appropriate to me. It's something that means a lot to me. But I think that like if you didn't give the context beforehand, you're just like, we're just gonna pretend all this is real. Show us the messages. I remember reading the messages where she was venting about her ex-husband. It wasn't really trauma dumping. It was a boundary issue. So I wouldn't assume this right off the bat. But okay, let's keep going. We're only a minute and 40 seconds in. My wife's saying in the chat, he apparently talks about every point that I made. Okay.
In my opinion, having inappropriate conversations with children, sending children inappropriate things, getting children to send you inappropriate things, and getting children to work for you without paying them all falls under child exploitation.
Maybe.
The reason I'm making this video is because the YouTuber Papa Gut put out
That's me, baby.
a few videos that, in my opinion, downplay the severity of what Colleen did.
I think the reason that they come off as a downplay is because things are so overloaded that I think mine's just a realistic take. Mine's not really a downplay. It's just like, here's what's actually going on.
Papa Gut is a commentary YouTuber that I've known for many years, and over the years he's made multiple videos criticizing my takes.
Ryan messaged me. He's like, I did a video. The tone I got from it is like, Papa Gut, I'm going to criticize you. You always criticize me. I deserve to do this. And he's right. He's right about that. He's right. He has every right.
So this video is the same thing. I'm just going to be trying to give some good faith criticisms of his takes. Like with any of my videos, this is not me trying to start beef with Papa or anything stupid like that, but I do think he's downplayed the severity of what Colleen has done in this situation, and I think that's worth criticism. So let's go through and respond to his video. The Colleen Ballinger situation has gotten out of hand.
Yes. You should have reacted to my 6-hour live stream, brother. Come on. So it's been 3 days since I posted my very comprehensive breakdown on this Adam McIntyre and Colleen Ballinger situation. And considering this is 6 hours long, I figured maybe I'll give you guys a little bit of a breakdown about the way that I feel, because to be honest with you, I think that this is a very large example of a narrative that's gone out of control.
Now, I will agree with Papa
agree with
that whenever a situation like this happens on the internet, a lot of times people will rush to respond to the situation and they won't be careful with the exact words that they use
Yeah, that's kind of what I did in my first video. Let's be fair. Okay. So
to describe the situation. For example, people rushing to call Colleen a pedophile.
Yes, it's wrong.
Because while I do think a lot of the things that she has done fall under the label of child exploitation, I would not call her a pedophile because nothing that she's done has indicated to me that she's attracted to these children. However, one of my criticisms of Papa is that sometimes when he feels like people are overreacting to a situation, he comes in and gives a take that underreacts to the situation.
I don't know, man. What an idiot. She's just a dumb person. Come on. Come on, dude. This is the first video. This was my bad video. You know that. You have to know that, dude. Give me a fair shake. This is a bad video. Should I have taken it down? I left it up because I was like, I said shit, so let me just leave it up so people can see the shit I said. That's my take on the top like that. So I'm like, okay, this was my original take. It wasn't a good take, and I guess I didn't exactly admit as much in the description. So I was like, okay, this is my bad take. But I agree with this. This one was a bad take. I know that. This was a bad. It's a bad. I guess I should have been more explicit about it. I should have been like, this was the bad take, guys. Here's the deep dive. Okay, let's do that right now. Okay, edit. This is the bad take, guys. Watch the deep dive. There we go. I changed it. That's what it is. This is the bad take. You can't reference this as a bad take. This wasn't me like underplaying it. This was me doing an 11-minute video that was like, she did a few bad things. And I'm like, okay, that's not good, but it doesn't have the context of like all of like those years of horrible negative energy that Adam received, right? So give me a break. Okay? Give me a break. I don't think anything predatory is going on. I think that she's just kind of a silly goose.
Because while I agree with Papa that when we're talking about the exploitation of children, we should be very careful about what wording we use, that does not justify the ways that, in my opinion, he has downplayed the severity of the situation.
Well, I can't argue with that one. So, yeah, I want you to understand that I do feel for Adam. The biggest part that I feel for Adam, to be absolutely honest with you, is because if there is a trauma there, it's not necessarily because of Colleen, but really the backlash and the outfall, or the fallout is the word I was looking for. Yeah. For the past 3 years, to my understanding, the same people who are now very much in defense of Adam and apologizing to him are the same ones that have bullied and harassed him. It's hard to look at 100,000 people and say, you guys caused this harm, and it's easier to say, well, it must be Colleen's fault. So I think that's perfectly fair. I think it's part of the equation. I think it's hard to communicate as a content creator because, again, very privileged. I work part-time and I make decent money. But that's fucked you up, man. Especially when I think that there's a significant amount of the frustration or potential trauma that comes from the backlash more than it comes from Colleen. I feel like that needs to be. I feel like that's a big deal, man. This is like the best time to talk about this.
Papa's opinion is that most of the trauma Adam has experienced has been caused by Colleen's fans.
Maybe not most, but it's a significant portion. Maybe like a 60-40 split, 40 in the way. I don't know. In the backlash, but it. Like, you have to know. I know Ryan knows this. Ryan has had like debates with like Destiny, and he's gotten, he's had his debates. It doesn't matter what was happening, but then he gets a lot of negative attention, and it fucks you up. It upsets you. Things upset me too. Of course, I get I'm not happy when people disagree with me. But I still think that's a big part of it. I think that we shouldn't underplay that because that's huge. That's an environmental impact on a particular situation. That's so massive. Environmental impacts berating you for years is the foundation of LGBTQ trauma, right? And I know it's not the exact same, but when you're sitting in a situation where people are looking at you and going like, oh, they're just constantly shitting on you for existence, I absolutely do think it would create a lot of issues. And I think it's a significant portion. And I think it's almost too easy for those same people that were, shitting on Adam for 3 years to just turn around and go like, oopsies, because they were part of the problem too. right? So I think that's a decent point. I agree with that point.
bullying him for the past 3 years, and that most of the
Bullying's
trauma
bad.
wasn't actually caused by Colleen's actions. And I'm confused why he presumes to know what is causing Adam the most trauma, because while I definitely agree that being bullied and harassed for 3 years would cause someone trauma, Adam could definitely also be feeling a lot of trauma from realizing that he was taken advantage of by Colleen.
Okay, but at the very least, acknowledge that this is a sizable portion, a good solid amount. We still agree, I think, here. Just the proportionality is the disagreement. How's that?
When children become adults and then they look back and realize that they were taken advantage of in their adolescence, this can be a very traumatic experience for them.
Can be.
So while I agree...
And that's another thing. It can be. It also doesn't have to be. And this is something that I try to communicate. I don't know if he brings it up later. It's hard. When you go to therapy, from a therapeutic one-on-one perspective, the way that you're supposed to engage with any potentially traumatic situation or event is the therapist meets you where you're at. Over affirmations and under affirmations are huge problems. If you go to a therapist and you're like, I have this situation, they go, oh my God, that's horrible. That you don't want to over affirm that feeling because you could generate additional trauma. Part of traumatic situations are the thing that happened to you plus your perception of the thing that happened to you. And so you have to be careful of that. And so like people on the internet being overly affirming doesn't have a positive impact. And it's just a fact when it comes to mental health aspects. You need to operate with these correctly and well. You need to meet somebody where they're at and guide them through. And when you have everybody on the internet just constantly saying yes, 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 and everything has been so heavily grooming this, that, the other thing, and to a point where even Ryan agrees with part of what I'm saying, that it's not pedophilia or grooming. I'm assuming. Somebody told me that he just said he doesn't think it's pedophilia, and I'm assuming the grooming part as well. Somebody had said that in a video, or somebody said that to me in a message when they showed me the video. Like, understand that that's part of it, right? And mental health is very complicated. You just don't want to be over or under affirming to somebody. And maybe you could argue I'm being under affirming, and I'm sorry if that's how I come off, right? I can be a little bit more of a blunt, strict kind of a guy for myself. So maybe that's part of it. Even my own interpretations of my own trauma. I hate saying the word trauma. I just, I talked about this. I think it's relevant here. I had my house broken into when I was like 12 years old. Some guy stormed in. It was an ex-boy. It was a boyfriend of my aunt. He stormed in the house. It was a very scary moment. And from that point on, mixed with my, I have OCD tendencies. There are times where I'm up all night going back and forth from the front door to the back door, the front door to the back door, locking the lock in 5 + 1 times, right? 6 times, but it's like 5 + 1. There might be a trauma there. But maybe part of it is because, like, I don't know. But I think that there's something to be said about the over-affirmation of a situation could distress you more. Because just so you know, when you go to a therapist as well, if you have a traumatic situation going on, it gets worse before it gets better. You have to go there. You're very vulnerable. You let out a lot of feelings, a lot of attachments to something. And in order to get over that, it's like a hump. It's like, you feel this way about it, and then you feel this way about it, and then eventually you feel this way about it after you go through therapy and you're honest and you go through it well. So, I guess I'm just rambling at this point, but I'm just trying to get everything. I have a lot of thoughts. I don't know if I'm expressing them well, but hopefully I am.
Agree that these people who have been bullying him for the past 3 years are definitely partially at fault. I don't think that lets Colleen off the hook in any way, and I still think she is just as much, if not more responsible than those fans who have been bullying him.
To be clear, and this is a real question, I do question all the people who are saying that they're on Adam's side, and I'm hoping that at least one of them recommended that he see some kind of mental health counselor, because if you truly think that you were groomed, that's the way to go.
True.
And that's one of the reasons why, and maybe I'm just wrong in this assertion, but I don't think anybody necessarily cares about Adam, unfortunately. I think that this is really more of just morally grandstanding from everybody else.
Well,
I partially still agree with that. Like, I know that there are people who do care about Adam, and I shouldn't have been so absolute about it. I shouldn't have generalized so much. But really, man, part of me, it can be hard to articulate, but there is something to when it comes to a topic that gets pushed on the internet. And when it comes to something that happens online, a lot of times people will just kind of walk into whatever the more normalized perspective is. They'll say, this perspective is accepted. We're just going to lean into that. Right? And we're just going to say, okay, and we're going to do very little effort into actually looking and examining situations. We're going to take everything at face value. And that's what most people have done. And I think that the same people, at the very least, who were going at Adam so hard, whether there was content creators or people engaging in the content, without looking at, because the original stuff doesn't even, I don't even know why Adam would get shit on for the past 3 years, because why? He had a bad interaction with Colleen. Like, if you look at that, his first video was just him expressing that I had a bad interaction with Colleen. And then Colleen said, nah. And everybody's like, oh, fuck you, Adam. And it's like, you guys didn't do any effort into even considering Adam's perspective. And I'm not talking about Brian here. But some people, well, not everybody, some people, not everybody. I got to be very clear about that. That's a decent criticism. Some people didn't put any energy into actually trying to come to like an unbiased perspective on the original topic. And now they're back here just going, boop, oops, and they're flipping sides. And I don't think that they care necessarily. I think that some of them are just like, oh, fuck. And they're just going with whatever the public sway is. So,
well, I'm someone who definitely thinks Colleen is in the wrong, and I think that Adam should get therapy if that's something that he wants to do. Would you say that I'm morally grandstanding? I agree with you that a lot of people online are very opportunistic, and they don't actually care about the people at the core of these controversies. They just enjoy watching all of this for the drama. But I don't think the fact that some of these drama fans are opportunistic changes the reality of the situation or the severity of what Colleen did.
I've seen a very genuine person expressing a very genuine thing. But it's not grooming. And I have to stand firm on that because I think that we are eroding the seriousness of that accusation. I want to first start off with saying that, like, obviously, defining grooming, there are multiple ways to define this. The first way is the way that we typically talk about this topic on the internet, which is sexual grooming. It is an intentional, methodical process of manipulating and setting somebody up, a child up, for sexual exploitation. People will say that they will say, well, it's not sexual grooming, but then they will bring up the inappropriate sexual aspects to this topic. And so let's address that first so that we can say we know for a fact that it wasn't any form of sexual grooming, because it wasn't. First and foremost, we have the inappropriate Q&A questions that Colleen recommended to Adam when he said in a group chat, hey, what should I ask for my Q&A? And she said, oh, what about if you're a virgin? Or what about your favorite sex position? Very inappropriate, right? But what do you think that the desired outcome was? Well, the desired outcome certainly wasn't to do some kind of harm to Adam. And so it boils down to that's very inappropriate. And it is, 1,000%. That's no questioning. But that doesn't mean that the intent of that was to try to take advantage of Adam sexually.
I actually agree with Papa that I don't know if I would label Colleen's actions as grooming, because it didn't seem like she was trying to set up some sort of sexual relationship with Adam. But I definitely would label it child exploitation, even if I wouldn't label it grooming. Papa says that he doesn't think Colleen's intentions were to harm Adam, but the thing is, you can still harm children even if that's not your intention.
Sure. That's true. I don't know if this did or didn't harm him, but the reality is that the intentionality matters when we're talking about grooming. And like my assertion here, or my discourse in that bit that we're talking about, is it grooming or not? And it is not grooming. It's not sexual grooming for sure. That was like a lot of the discourse. Like that was what the moment of that is like. And the intentionality does matter when it comes to those cases. So
having inappropriate sexual conversations with children can have a lasting negative psychological effect on them, even if your goal through doing that wasn't to sexually groom them.
Sure. Lingerie, the same thing. Obviously, she was on a live stream giving away stuff that she didn't want, and she sent it because she thought it was funny. It's not. Especially 6 years after that event happened, it's even less funny. And I want to be clear, because it wasn't funny then, but we have moved rapidly socially over the past 6 years. I would say more so than we have the 50 years before. We are in the age of the internet, the age of rapid communication, rapid information, and we are moving very quickly socially. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but what I am saying is that we move fast. And so saying something was acceptable 3 years ago and now it's not, to a lot of people goes, well, that's silly. It was only 3 years. We've moved rapidly.
So
I agree with this. I think that part of the problem is that when you see somebody that did a bad thing 20 years ago, you go like, that was 20 years ago. But I still think that some of that, when you do on the line inappropriate humor, the line shifts very quickly in a social atmosphere, right? And that's really the point there. You know, my point is that like this would have been considered on the line humor for the time that she was in the public stuff. I guess I'm talking about it really. And now things have changed rapidly, and I think it's something to acknowledge.
Papa is making the point that what we culturally see as acceptable has been rapidly changing over the past couple years. And while I think that's true, I think even back then, most people knew that having sexual conversations with children as an almost 30-year-old is not okay.
I wouldn't call it a sexual conversation with a child. I would say it's a sexual comment. And it's like within the context of thinking it's a joke, right? And it's higher. There's a difference between a sexual conversation and a sexual comment. I think we have to understand that. If she had an actual like in-depth sexual conversation, like Adam, ask people if you're a virgin and like how hard you like to get fucked and like all this other shit. That's the converse. It's not a conversation. It's just not. It wasn't a conversation. It was a one-off inappropriate comment, and those are very different things. They really are very different things. There's a difference between making a one-off inappropriate comment versus having an entire like elongated conversation in an inappropriate fashion.
And also, I don't really believe in moral relativism. Like,
Why?
in the past, it used to be seen as totally acceptable to marry children, but now we realize that child marriage is actually super harmful towards those children, and I think we should be able to criticize that.
Yeah, we can, but there's a difference between criticism and assigning intentionality and having disproportionate responses to particular things like it's happening to Colleen, right?
We shouldn't just...
Also, we're talking about on-the-line humor, not like child rape. That's what that is. Marrying children to adults is child rape, right? So we're doing a more on-the-line thing. We're not, rather than that. But okay.
Say, oh, well, child marriage was acceptable at the time, so we can't really hold those people accountable. I guess we can
I think that's a little disproportionate.
Show a bit more leniency to people if they didn't understand that what they were doing is wrong, but Colleen, even
yes, of course you would do that.
At the time, should have definitely understood that asking a child to send a picture of his ass was wrong.
Okay, and the conversation, by the way, about parasocial relationships is very new. Parasocial relationships have existed forever. We've really only been talking about them for the past year or two. And so you have to understand that this wasn't a widely understood and accepted topic that people were talking about. And everybody that's in the comments, and the point here is that, like, I think the bigger point here, and I don't know if he goes into it, I talked about micro celebrities and how when it comes to other people, when it comes to like other like mainstream celebrities, they get picked up and they end up getting groomed to an extent by managers who will help them through every single aspect of every single thing, right? And so you don't need a social, you don't have to be educated on your interactions. They're just like, don't do this, right? They'll advise you not to be too personal with your fans, of course, because that could lead to problems. But as micro celebrities, we don't have that. We're also in the age of accessibility where there's Instagram and Twitter and all those other things to make it easy to get in communication with your fans. And I think it's okay to communicate with your fans. To the degree is obviously something that's very different. And that's where I'm getting at there, is that I don't think her perspective was, I think it's really wrong to like talk to her. Honestly, it's most likely that she just thought she was interacting with fans in a little bit of an edgy way. That was it. I don't think it's quite that simple, but that's her perspective. I think that's fair, right? Other content creators that are like, no, this is parasocial. You're right. But that wasn't a thing that we acknowledged back then.
I don't think the main issue here is that she was being parasocial with her fans, because
I think it's a big issue. I don't even think she should have been friends with Adam. I think that's a huge issue. That's where I would have drawn the line. The parents thought that it was appropriate to like I remember Adam commented about how they liked that Colleen was like, oh, it's nice that she's very interactive with her fans. Like they appreciated that, right? So fundamentally, I disagree. I wouldn't want my 14-year-old kid talking to a 30-year-old, and I'm not saying they did anything wrong. My point is like that was probably the general thought, because it's very, again, kind of new to like the micro celebrity thing, somewhat new to it, becoming a lot more mainstream. Like COVID, mainstream micro celebrities, boom, explosion of content creators. The only reason that I'm like relevant in any capacity, the massive explosion of mainstream content creators, huge thing. And I think that like there were boundaries that were not explored properly. People doing inappropriate shit, right? And not necessarily realizing it's like, well, I'm just talking to fans, but it's like, well, do you realize that like this is not good the way that you talk to fans, right?
Agree that parasocial relationships are bad. Most like Minecraft YouTubers have parasocial relationships with their fans.
Well, yeah, but they actually groom their fans.
Problem is that she took these parasocial relationships and exploited them to have sexual conversations with children.
No, this framing is just so wrong.
And to get children to do unpaid labor for her.
I feel like that framing is so weird. It just doesn't come off as
them
good.
To have sexual. The problem is that she took these parasocial relationships and exploited them to have sexual conversations with.
You're suggesting intentionality when you just agreed that it wasn't grooming, right? I believe he said that that's not she wasn't doing it. You're saying that she took weaponized parasocial relationships with the intention of being to actually intentionally be sexual with children. You're calling her a pedophile and a groomer at that. Like that is not an accurate or correct assertion of what is going on here. You're asserting that she's a fucking groomer. I believe you just said you disagree with that. She's not having this interaction to set people up to have sexual conversations or to exploit their labor. She's having parasocial relationship with her fans, and then occasionally she will make inappropriate sexual comments, and to people who are really, really big fans of Colleen who want to do work for her, she's saying, all right, fuck it. She didn't go out of her way to say, Ryan, do you want to do that? Ryan loved making content for her. He wanted to work for her, right? That's part of it. But she didn't like go like, I want to become this guy's friend and then take advantage of his labor. You're assigning predatory intentionality to her, which does not exist. This is the problem I have. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. There's no intentionality of Colleen did this thing to talk. She really wanted to give Adam inappropriate Q&A questions. I don't think so. That is not reality. There was no intentionality to explicitly do that. It's just not. It just doesn't exist. There's nothing that shows that there was like I want to create relationships just to take advantage of people. Her perspective is she's just trying to. She's like, oh, these are my fans. I'm going to interact with them. That's cool, and it goes too far. That's it.
With children and to get children to do unpaid labor for her.
It's not the intent. You have to understand the intent. And my intent is to come into this completely unbiased. A lot of people are filtering the behaviors of Colleen through her being guilty instantaneously, but that's not how these work. Yes, people have already made the decision she's guilty, and now people are trying to push themselves up to they're like, okay, she's guilty, how can I make it look guilty? Even though the evidence doesn't show that. I understand it's a very human thing to do, but that's just not how it works.
I would consider myself unbiased in the situation. I've never had
I slightly disagree.
Any sort of feelings, positive or negative, towards Colleen in the past. I just honestly didn't care about her. So while I agree
that's how I was as well, yeah,
that it is important for us to analyze our own biases.
Again, you just assigned an intentionality to exploit labor, even though none of that's shown. People giving her content or helping with her content for free doesn't show that she's trying to exploit them of content. Those are two very different things. I have people in my Discord who send me messages and help me make my content as well with what I should talk about. That doesn't mean that like I'm exploiting them. They like there's no exploitation. You can't show an exploitation of labor. There is no evidence or proof of that at all. People said like, what is it that you think like that's just not, it doesn't exist.
You should also be careful to not assume that anyone who has a more negative perception of the situation has that perception just because they're biased.
I think people will talk about is that she has like a bit on stage where she has kids do stuff that would be considered inappropriate. Again, that is inappropriate. Also keep in mind that she's doing that in front of the parents and the parents don't mind. That doesn't make it okay, but we have to understand, unless you think that every single parent of every single kid that likes Miranda is some kind of a groomer, then we would just understand that maybe those are inappropriate dated jokes.
I don't think that the parents of these children were groomers by any means, but I do think there is a problem where parents can sometimes turn a blind eye to bad behavior because they want to make their children happy.
I don't care. That's the parents' fault. I just don't like. That's like our argument of like, well, our parent let our kid get into some kind of danger because they want to make their kid happy is not an excuse to me. That's called the bad parenting. What's more likely is that they didn't see a problem with it because they also thought it was just kind of silly, edgy humor. That's more likely. That's really all it is, right? And again, there's just that's more likely. That's just more realistic.
These children that Colleen was using to make inappropriate jokes on stage were massive fans of her. And it's not easy for a parent to tell a child that they shouldn't go up on stage with someone who they idolize. So yeah, I would say that the parents are partially in the wrong for not keeping their children safe, and Colleen is partially in the wrong for doing those inappropriate jokes with the children.
Sure, I would like to say that it's not like they were put in an unsafe situation by doing the thing. Right, it wasn't appropriate, but that doesn't mean that they were unsafe by participating in a cringy, show. They're not unsafe based on that live show. It's inappropriate, but that doesn't mean that there's no safety. And these are like the types of words that are just not proportionate to what's happening. Then we would just understand that maybe those are inappropriate dated jokes. It is important. Things change. Pedophile jokes were much more accepted not even 5 years ago. I think it's a good thing that they're not as much, but frankly, they used to be more accepted.
I think a very important nuance that Papa is missing here is that there is a massive difference between joking about pedophilia and joking about pedophilia while using actual children.
I guess, again, there was an entire collective of people who made Colleen a millionaire because they went to the shows with their parents because they thought that this was appropriate, right? Like the fundamental aspect, like we literally, even today, people give me backlash for talking about how Bobby Lee rapes children or raped a child. They're like, no, it's just a joke. Now, maybe it was doubtful based on him saying his joke about how he went to like some other country and then got a 13-year-old prostitute. And then, when she was crying, decided to, in his words, power fuck her. My point isn't that it's okay, but my point is that people still think that that was like somewhat appropriate a little while ago. That's the point, right? This was part of her show, not appropriate. Everybody knew what they were kind of getting into. The parents knew that. They shouldn't have let their kid do it. But again, that just shows where we were at that time. That's the only point. The only point is that at that time, this was appropriate. It was on the line humor.
I would actually kind of compare this situation to the movie Cuties, because there's a massive difference between making a movie that talks about child exploitation and using actual child actors and exploiting them to talk about child exploitation.
Okay. I watched the movie Cuties. I thought that it was a lot of inappropriate stuff there. Frankly, though, the Cuties movie, the directors and the writers did an excellent job of showing you that every single thing that they did was inappropriate and wrong. And it really is a coming of age story that probably resonates with a lot of younger girls, because like they are in a society now where there is a lot of over sexualization that's too normalized. And so like for young, like girls probably in like even their 20s look at that and they're like, oh, that resonates with me. To be honest, from my experience, and you could just say this is anecdotal, the men have more of a problem with this, with the Cuties, than women do. A lot of women look at that and they go like, oh, like I kind of can resonate with this. This makes sense to me. Whereas a lot of men are like, no, that's disgusting. You shouldn't show any of this. Absolutely, they could have operated in that movie better. But I think that, like, again, that's another movie where people are being disproportionate about it. I think it was, again, I understand that there's sexual stuff in there and it was gross, but it does an excellent job of showing that it's not that it is very inappropriate to the point where they were booed off the stage at the end, and it's a good coming of age story. Right. And so like, that's another thing. I think people went a little too disproportionate on Cuties too. That's just the reality of the situation. I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with it, as I understand. I think that, no offense, some people weren't mature enough to look at that and like just not assign constant, like, I don't know, attraction to it or something. Yeah, I know that does. I know people are going to criticize me of that too, but I watched the movie when I was like 30. It wasn't really like it was gross, but I wasn't looking at it in a way where I was like, oh my God, look at these asses. I was looking at it, I was like, oh, this is inappropriate. I think that's another public narrative. People should, really keep that in mind. I get that it was inappropriate, but like, I don't know. I imagine the only reason you couldn't sit through that movie is because you were turned on to sit. Too turned on. I don't know. But okay.
And in the same way, there is a massive difference between a show like South Park making pedophilia jokes or a stand-up comedian making pedophilia jokes and her using actual children on stage to make those jokes. Because when you use actual children to make pedophilia jokes, there is a victim in that situation. Whereas if you just make a pedophilia joke...
Well, what do you think happened to that kid that did that? Do you think that like he doesn't I doubt that he has anything attached to that. Again, not appropriate, but like, what do you think the outcome from that one? What do you think happened to the kid? Do you think like he died? He has no trauma associated with being pulled onto stage and doing that. It's not right, but again, like you're talking about victim as if there's like this drastic harm that every single kid had interacting with her, and it's just not there.
Joke in a stand-up set, there is no direct victim. And when you now have girls coming out and saying that they felt traumatized by having Colleen spreading their legs open on stage, I don't think you can just brush that aside by saying, oh, well, these were just outdated jokes.
No, I can. And I'm going to be absolutely honest with you, and people are not going to agree with this. Mental health on the internet is considered sexy to people, and people will constantly overplay a lot of the shit that happens to them because they think it's sexy. Everybody has ADHD now. Everybody has autism now. You can't go on the internet or on TikTok without somebody over talking about a particular situation they had through like in general. It's sexy to have mental health issues. It's sexy to be victims. That's the public narrative. I don't know what to tell you. People, it takes a while to really understand that, but that's just a fact. This kid's not going to have she might look back on that and go like, that was weird. We all have those moments. She's not traumatized. She's not traumatized by anything. This is most likely people who are being opportunistic because they know that it gives you views if you decide to say something negative about Colleen. I'm not saying that about Adam, but random people on the internet. Absolutely a thing. People think that it's so sexy oh, guys, it's so cool. It's so hip. Okay, you don't like the word sexy. People think it's hip to have mental health problems nowadays. That's just a fact. It's just the reality of the situation. So, trauma gets attention. People think that it's cool to have these issues. So, yeah. But to be absolutely frank, I cannot trust the public perspective of anybody who's weighing in on this situation because they've already decided to demonize Miranda. And so it's impossible when you have people who've already decided that this is grooming for you to give an accurate perspective, because simply put, it wasn't.
Again, I don't think what we should be focusing on here is whether or not her actions technically fall under the definition of grooming.
Yes, we should. 1000% disagree. The worst, honestly, easily the worst. It is so important. That is the most important thing, because if it is grooming, it is horrible. If it's not grooming, it's not as bad. We live in a society of social disproportionality to every single action that happens constantly. If somebody went to jail for taking a candy bar, we have this all the time. We in the social discourse, we talk about how black people are constantly getting disproportionate punishments to committing the same fucking crimes as white people. Right? So proportionality matters. So when it comes to the social discourse, proportionality matters. We need to fix the system. Somehow when it comes to like social discourse instead of like legal discourse, all of a sudden, proportionality doesn't matter. It does. It matters so much. And obviously it matters to me. Right? So like it does matter. Like that matters so much. It matters more than a lot of other things. Sure, popular and trendy. I'm sorry that I used the word sexy. Like if you guys, you know what I'm talking about. That matters. Proportionality matters. Okay?
If she exploited children in a sexual way, I think she should be held accountable for exploiting these children, even if her intention was not to groom them.
Well, she didn't groom them, but like proportionality matters. Holding somebody accountable.
She should be held accountable.
What does holding accountable mean? You can't hold somebody accountable for a thing if you haven't decided the correct thing that they did. Okay, if we can't figure out, if we're calling it grooming when it's not, people are trying to punish her as if she's this groomer. The energy being used is she needs to lose her kids, lose her career, and she needs to go to jail. That's the energy that's being used here. What does accountability mean? You can't just use the word accountability. What does accountability mean to you based on what she did? If you don't know, if we can't figure out what exactly she did, if we're still debating that, then how can you have a proportionate accountability? Like you have to have the discussion about what is the proportionate response. Or what is the thing that happened, so you can have a conversation about a proportionate response. That's it. Like that's you. It does matter. It matters. The fact that you don't think it matters, that is concerning to me. It's concerning.
For exploiting these children, even if her intention was not to groom them.
If and when these group chats come out, I'm sure they're going to show inappropriate behavior. But again, do you think Miranda was trying to set children up for sexual exploitation, or do you think that she's an idiot? Frankly, I think that she's probably just an idiot.
So this here is my main...
You agree with me, though. To be clear, you already agree with what I just said. Through the whole video, you said it wasn't pedophilia, you don't think it was grooming. You agree with what I have to say, that you don't think it's those things. So what could you disagree with?
Problem with your perspective.
What is the problem?
You keep saying that you think she's an idiot, that you think she's stupid, and I think you even at one point said that you think she's a silly goose.
Yes, in the first video, and you know that is like 7 hours before the... Bro, come on. This went from good faith to so fucking bad faith. You're constantly bringing up the original video that I conceded to in the second video, and you should have at least watched part of it. Like, this is my original perspective. It's wrong. I've already admitted to that. So, like, to say, oh, you called her a silly goose. Yeah, in the first video. Like, what do you want me to tell you? Like, did you know that? Or did you not even... Like, I understand not wanting to watch 6 hours, although you're a content creator, so you probably should. But if you didn't watch the first 45 minutes, you would have known instantaneously that, like, I didn't agree with that original perspective. I think I even say it after the first one, like, oh, this was worse than I thought. You know? Like, what is it... I mean, I guess I should have been more explicit about that. I guess I'll take that about that. You know, but this is just not the accurate framing of my perspective on this topic. It seems like you're going from this position to this position. It's like you haven't even gone through the 6 hours. This is the main video. At the very least, it should be referenced. Like, it's like at the very least, like it should be referenced of like that's the mainstay perspective. Also, we're on fucking YouTube. Like, what do you want me to say? Silly goose. It's not a good word. Well, what word should I use for her? She's not a fucking groomer. She's not an abuser. She's not a predator. She's a fucking moron. What word do I need to use so that I can convey to you that I care? Like, why? What is it that would make you all feel happy for me to say she's not a groomer? She's not a rapist. She's not a predator. She's not a pedophile. She's a fucking inappropriate moron. I'm sorry I used the word silly goose in the first video, and then 6 hours of reviewing content later would walked it back. So what is it like? What's the criticism here? Where's the proportionality here? Okay, so I should have said maybe she's a silly goose. Yeah, that would have been so much more appropriate.
Whatever that means.
I don't think anything predatory is going on. I think that she's just kind of this bad faith. Okay. At least don't tell me. Don't assert that you're trying to say that it's good faith when you're just playing this fucking childish game at this point. Like, all the criticisms were fine, but this is fucking ridiculous. How many times are you going to use this from, like, the first fucking 5 minutes of my first video? Like, okay, good faith. I guess we're just using debate terms now, guys. We're just using... I believe this is what we call a straw man. This is a very interesting straw man situation. I'm being, red herringed right now. What the fuck is this? How many times you should have just made this the whole video? Obviously, the intention is to get is to kind of dunk on me a little bit here. Like, for what reason? What's the what's the idea here? Okay, silly goose.
Because while I agree with you that she probably is stupid, I would say that most people who exploit children are stupid idiots. If I decide to run through public and start punching random people because I think it's funny, I would definitely be a stupid idiot. But what matters here is not whether or not I'm stupid. What matters is the way my actions hurt people. And
sure.
Obviously, if you went to court for punching random people...
I mean, punching random people is an action that is intentional regardless. We're not talking about a situation... Like, this isn't... Like, going around punching somebody, you have the intentionality to punch somebody and cause harm to them. And to be honest with you, if they had, like, some kind of an intellectual disability and they were doing that because they had, like, fucking schizophrenia, the courts absolutely would look at that and go, context matters. It's not just about the outcome. It's also about, like, the behavior that they exhibited and also their perspective on the behavior. That's why manslaughter and murder aren't the same. Murdering somebody and killing someone in self-defense are two different things. Perspective always matters. It's not just about the outcome of what is happening. Absolutely. Like, in every fucking facet of everything. Even in that situation, you're not even correct. It's just what I'm talking about. It's fucking proportionality to situations. Proportionality matters. Context matters to every single situation. If we only operated based on what happened to a person, we would have a very different society. Like, have you ever tripped and accidentally bumped into somebody and you're like, that was an accident? And they went, well, you still bumped into me, and they start smacking the fuck out of you? That would be wrong. Intentionality is so much part of the equation. You can't just say it's not. Just because, I understand the idea of comparisons, but it's such a disproportionate comparison. It's not even relevant to what we're talking about right now.
You couldn't just be like, sorry, Your Honor, I'm a bit of a stupid idiot. So while you and me both agree that Colleen is stupid, I think what matters is that she is a stupid person who hurt children. Okay. And I hate to play the double standards card, but you literally admitted that if it was a man who did these things, you would view the situation completely differently.
You know what's really... Sorry, let me just...
Who hurt children. And I hate to play the double standards card, but you literally admitted that if it was a man who did these things, you would view the situation completely differently.
You know what's really interesting is, like, I'm thinking that, like, from Colleen, it's not like, it's probably nothing really bad. But if it was a man, I would be all over that. I'd be like, because men are gross. Because
men are gross. First of all, men are gross. Men are the majority predators. Second of all, it's an offhanded comment I probably just shouldn't have made. Okay. Oops, I don't know what else. I'm a silly goose. It's just not true in action. It doesn't. Okay. People would get more uncomfortable if it was a man, because men generally. I mean, this is we're just going to talk about it. Generally speaking, men are more predatory than women, especially in this way. If it was a guy saying the same thing, there would be a higher chance he was trying to predatorize somebody. But given the 6 hours of context that I went through, I would say, you know, I know the context, so that he's not a fucking predator. That was an 11-minute rundown and a fucking on a perspective of the situation. Okay? What do you want me to say? Like, based on the situation, you fucking agree with me. You agree with me. You agree with what I'm saying. So what the fuck? I don't know what to tell you, because you want to know what? I don't even give a fuck anymore, because I already know people are going to pick apart part of this video. They're going to cry about every word that I said. I even defended Shane Dawson. I think what he did was gross, but he's not a fucking predator. And, oh, well, if it was a guy, clearly not. I'm consistent as fuck. I don't give a fuck. I'm consistent on, like, every perspective that I have. I'm thoughtful and meaningful on everything. I weigh these. Do you think I want to have like a take on Colleen Ballinger that disagrees with the fucking public narrative? You know how obnoxious it is? I know what it's like to be a big content creator and get shit on for having a disagreement in a fucking opinion in some massive disproportionate way. I know what it's like. It's not fun for me. I just felt it was the right thing to do to have a social conversation when people are being massively disproportionate about this topic. You agree with what I'm saying, and this isn't a good faith video at the very least. Don't lie to me after you made this. I mean, you edited this and said, this is good faith. Let me keep bringing up stuff that I've already conceded to being wrong. And that was the first 20 minutes of my review on this content. I did another 6 hours of it, and we're just going to go back to that original thing. Okay.
Because while I agree that it is statistically more likely that
Yes.
men are going to harm children than women are, if a woman does harm a child, I think she should be held to the exact same standard that men are held to. And I would think that you agree with that. And
Yes, and I'm holding her to the same standard I'd hold a man to.
if a man brought children on stage and spread their legs open and made pedophilia jokes and asked a child to send a picture of their ass and asked children if they're virgins and what their favorite sexual position...
But you know that that's not what happened. She didn't ask people if they're virgins. It was a Q&A thing. You're still... Is that what this is for? People are spamming these fans. I'm supposed to cool off because I'm getting too worked up. Okay. Okay. Excuse me. If the context was exactly the same, I would not assume predatory intention. That's just a fact. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what else to tell you.
positions are, I really do not think you'd be having this same response
I
where you're
would be.
saying, oh, well, he's just a bit of a stupid idiot. What
I would be.
are you going to do?
I would be having the same conversation.
And like I said, I want to view you in good faith here.
No, you don't.
I know that you don't try to have double standards between men and women.
I really don't.
I know that you did say that her actions were inappropriate.
Yes.
And maybe
And you agree that they're not grooming. So you mostly agree. It comes off as like almost like you're trying to disagree with me at this point. Especially since you talk about how you know me, and yet none of this stuff is filtered through like the way that we've interacted together through the past like 3 fucking years. Like, I know Papa Gut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what he says, and I'm not going to do what friends do, not to play the card, and understand Papa in a way where it's like, I know he said some dumb shit here, but I think this is what he might have meant. I do shit all the time. All the time. I try to. So it's like, it's not really good faith. It's kind of pretending you don't really know who I am while you interact with these things. You know, there's things to criticize, but then like the constant bringing up of like, it's just a silly, it's like, stop. You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing there.
your only issue here is that people are using the label of groomer instead of child exploiter. But
Yes, that's a huge fucking issue. And your perspective is unintentional child exploiter, by the way. It's not just child exploiter. Be like fucking own that shit. You think she's not a child explorer, she's an unintentional. That's your perspective. You think it's unintentional. You even said it in my chat when we were watching this. Oh, exploitation doesn't have to be intentional. Your perspective is mine is saying it's not grooming. If people were just like, I think that she unintendedly exploited a child, we wouldn't fucking be here. That's not, you can't play off a huge deal. That's like executing somebody for stealing a candy bar. That's not proportion. We have to have the right conversation. What is going on here?
But I don't think you should just be saying that she's stupid.
You're
I
right.
think you should be saying that she exploited children, which is unacceptable.
Sure. The point that I'm making here is that grooming is an intentional process to set someone up to do a thing. And what I don't quite understand is, what thing do you think that Adam was groomed into doing? Intentionally. The narrative, intentionally, my understanding, because frankly, it's not. I was supposed to read his pinned comment. One more point I see people saying, that you could consider the situation grooming if you mean grooming in the sense that she groomed him into exploiting his labor and having an inappropriate relationship with him, which is wrong. You need intentionality for it to be grooming, which you concede that it was not intentional. I definitely see this perspective. However, I try to be very careful with the word grooming because the extremely charged way that people have been weaponizing the word recently, especially towards LGBTQ people. My overall point with this video is whether or not this is grooming doesn't really matter to me, but it does. You don't believe what you're saying. You literally just went on to say that you think that grooming is a very intense, loaded word and that you don't think it's grooming. And now you're saying, but that doesn't really matter to me. It does matter to you. Why are you lying to yourself? You're trying to be agreeable to the people at the expense of being strong in the situation. You can disagree with me and them at the same time, but you're conceding instantaneously because of backlash. That's what you're doing. You're conceding. You're conceding because you're afraid of the backlash. Right there. Just be like, listen, it's not grooming. I disagree with Papa Gut. I think he was insensitive, whatever, but it's grooming. It's not grooming, but you're like, this doesn't really matter to me, while going on about how much it matters to you. Child exploitation is child exploitation. I can't see inside of Colleen's brain and see what her intentions were. There's a chance that she never was intending to hurt anybody. You know that she wasn't. You said she's not a groomer. But my point is that it doesn't matter. It does matter. If that's your point, then you can't, I don't know what to tell you. If you exploit and harm children, I really cannot care less what your intentions are. You have to be held accountable. Exploiting and harming children. She had people make content for her. When you, again, morally loaded words, when you use the term exploitation of something, the instant thing that goes to your fucking head is like really intense, some kind of abuse. She had people make content for her and had some, what the fuck is that? Like, these words are so intentionally charged. These are fucking dog whistles, okay? I'm just gonna go over. These are dog whistles. What's happening right now is the same fucking thing that white liberals say to fucking black people. I know I'm going fucking crazy, but it's time to go fucking crazy. When they say, I support reparations, what that goes into your head is that you support black people, frankly, justifiably, getting money back for bad things that happened to them, for fucking slavery, segregation, redlining, the destruction of Black Wall Street, all these different things. But what you really mean is, I believe in prison reform. I hear fucking liberals say this shit all the time. You're trying to say something that invokes a feeling while walking it back because it's a coward position. That's what it comes down to. So you're trying to say exploitation, use these words so that you seem agreeable to people you disagree with. You don't agree with these people. You don't agree with them. You agree more with me than them. That's what it comes down to. You're using morally loaded and charged words so that you can seem agreeable to people that you disagree with. You agree with me more. You say you don't think it's grooming. You say that you don't think it's like any type of like fucking intentionality to it. You agree with me. That's what's fucking. This is what's frustrating about it. It's like, dude, just stand behind your perspective. It's be like, this is how I feel. But instead, people are saying like, no, Ryan is grooming these fucking people, which you don't even know who they are. You don't know what their credibility is. There's so many people on the internet that don't give a fuck about anything that they're saying. Most of the time, there's like 15-year-old little kids. Like, that's what we talk about. They fucking incel community all the time. It's dumb little kids in the comments. Oh, every time I have a take about Nick Merckx, oh, I fucking agree with Nick Merckx. Oh, I'm gonna fucking, like, you're a little baby. You're a dumb little baby. And then somehow people take them as just as credible as like a fucking 30-something-year-old person that's constantly trying to have the right conversation. Why? Fuck you. You're wrong. It's not grooming. To all the people that are saying it, I'm sorry. I know that you're offended, but it's just a fact of the matter of the situation. That's what it is. And own it. Like, you can't even own your own take in your own video. It's a 20-minute video, and the backlash has already caused you to shift towards what they're saying. And then you're gonna downplay, oh, I don't know how much the social atmosphere has into play when it comes to Adam. That's so much of the equation. You're backpedaling fucking. Not even an hour and a half into the video, you're already walking. Ah, guys, you're right. Maybe it is grooming. No, it's not. It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. That's the difference in the conversation, whether somebody murdered somebody or somebody was in self-defense. It was some kind of, like, these are totally different things. Anyway, sorry. If you need to be held accountable for your actions, you can't do that unless you can't need to be held accountable for your actions unless you know what the thing is happening. Possibility in court or law, or possibility by people collectively not allowing you to have interactions with children anymore. So what? Wait, you need to be held accountable for your actions, possibly in court of law, or possibly by having collectively not allowing you to have interactions with children anymore. So whether or not she is technically a pedo or a groomer, she should still be kept far away from children. So your perspective is that she needs to lose her kids and go to jail. She can't be near children. Your perspective is Colleen Ballinger needs to have her kids taken away. What are you, psycho? Are you a fucking psychopath? There's no way you believe this. If you believe this, this is insane. There's no way you would have said this without the prompting of people saying that they don't like your take. There's no fucking way. There's no way. You think that she should have her kids taken away from her? She should be kept far away from children. What the fuck is that? That's insane. You agree that she's not a fucking pedophile or groomer. And you're basically asserting she is now. Technically, she might not be a pedo or a groomer, but she should still be kept far away from children? Holy fuck. There's no way. Good faith, my fucking balls. There's no fucking way, dude. That's insane. That's insane. That's insane. There's no way. Okay, let's just continue. I gotta get through the rest of this fucking video. not very it's an intentional process to set someone up to do a thing. And what I don't quite understand is, what thing do you think that Adam was groomed into doing? The narrative, my best of my understanding, because frankly it's not very precise or accurate, it's a bit all over the place, is that Colleen set Adam up for some form of grooming in order to exploit content and his labor out of him, as well as to be a friend in some capacity, I guess. To be honest with you, it hasn't been well defined. That's the best thing that I could come up with, that she groomed him for content.
Again, maybe you don't want to use the word grooming, but I would
It's not the word to use.
definitely say that she exploited him for content, because getting minors to do work for you over the course of years and never paying them definitely is child exploitation.
Why? It's not late. Like the way that you're talking about is if the fucking Adam McIntyre yearns for the mines. Adam would make fan pages like for her. It was like, hi Colleen, I did a thing on a fan page for you. Okay. Cool. It's not this again. It's loaded verbiage. Exploited labor. This isn't somebody at Starbucks who's not allowed to take a piss. This is a kid that was like really into Colleen and wanted to work for her, and then had an opportunity to turn it into a job, and it just fell through. That's what happened.
So my question would be, is it worse to groom someone into doing unpaid labor for you, or exploit someone into doing unpaid labor for you?
Grooming, obviously. This wasn't even a question.
Because in my mind, these are pretty equal, and the difference really just feels semantic to me.
Okay, well then it's a good thing you're not a fucking lawyer or in the criminal justice system, because there'd be a lot of people going to jail for fucking, I don't know. Okay, great. So I want to ask a question. What do you think should happen to Colleen? She has to die. I think she needs to die. That's what we were all saying at this point. I'm wrong. I disagree. She needs to lose her kids. That's it. That's what has to happen. It's incredible stuff. The way that you guys are talking about it, whether you intend it or not, is that she needs to lose her children and go to jail. Yep. You think Colleen is an unfit mother because of this. That is the proportionality. That would be the proportional punishment to the way that you are talking about this topic, is that is what that is. Okay.
Now, I don't know if I think that Colleen should go to jail or have her children taken.
Well, you kind of alluded to that in your comments. This must have been a really hot take from you.
Taken away because of this. But according to the law, you can be fined $15,000 for every time you violate child labor laws.
Well, it's a good thing this wouldn't be considered that.
So if Colleen was exploiting child labor over the course of multiple years, she could theoretically be fined hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Guys, I have to say, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to actually help you guys find a lawyer so we can do a class action lawsuit. Because if you scroll through my Discord, there's a lot of recommended videos that I should do. And obviously, you all deserve to get paid for your labor. This is basically what they were doing for her, helping her make content. Here's a content idea. Here's a silly thing. Colleen, what if you did this thing? What do you think that they were doing? What are you talking about? What do you think that they were doing? Like, explain it without saying exploitation. What do you think that they were doing? They were delivering merch for free. If that's happened, that's different. Was she having little kids come to her house and then say, here, deliver this to go run from New York to Ohio and bring... Okay, that's awesome. You know what, I agree. I'm so wrong. I agree. Fuck it.
Now, I don't know if this actually will happen, and there's obviously the complication that Adam lives in Ireland, and I don't know what child labor laws are like in that country, but I do think proportionally it makes sense that she would have to pay some sort of fine for violating child labor laws. Okay. Also, the fact that Colleen requested that Adam send her a picture of his ass is very bad.
What does that have to do with the topic? What?
Also, the fact that Colleen requested that Adam send her a picture of his ass is very bad.
Right, and you agree that she's not trying to groom or be a pedophile in the video that you made here. So you bringing that up is dishonest. You say that you don't think, like, if you think that she's trying to rape Adam, then she needs to go to jail. But you don't think so. So why do you keep bringing it up as if it's like a fucking dunk? Holy shit, that's a dunk to you? That's your dunk? Yeah, it's inappropriate. You don't think he's a fucking pedophile group? Well, maybe you do now because you were bullied into thinking so. You don't even think that he is. So why do you bring it up? You're trying to communicate that you think that she's a fucking sexual bad guy. But you agree she's not. So why do you keep being dishonest about your portrayal of information? Oh my God. Fucking Jesus.
Now, I don't think Adam actually did send any pictures, but if he did, she could potentially be looking at 5 to 20 years in prison.
Good, and if he did, thinking that she was actually asking for it, regardless of her intention, then she should go to jail. But I think that everybody in that group chat knew that it was a stupid joke. Inappropriate, it was a joke. It shouldn't have happened. It was a joke. We know this, okay? And I'm not one of the morons that like, because things are jokes means you can't have accountability. No, but jokes have an intentionality attached to them. I'm not one of the fucking baby. Oh, okay.
And it's also...
Bro, Ryan, you're just telling me that intentionality doesn't matter. I can't take you seriously if that's your perspective. You want to talk about it after this? There's no problem. I have no problem with having a conversation with you after this. After we finish this video and I get another drink of water and I calm down a little bit, I have no problem with a conversation with you about this. But I mean, you're telling me that proportionality doesn't matter. Okay, I'm hyped up. I do need to relax. Okay, and I just need a little break after this video to relax a little bit, and then we can have a nice discussion about it. Okay,
so illegal to solicit obscene images from minors even if they don't actually send the pictures. So yes, this behavior could theoretically land her in prison. This is very bad. It's not just like stupid dumb jokes. What do I personally think should happen to Colleen? I don't know. I think that should be left up to the victims if they want to decide to press charges or not, and then in court they would see if what she did actually does qualify as being illegal or not.
Sure, that's fine. I think that it is a very disproportionate thing. I think she deserves criticism, but like most things on the internet, this criticism is never proportionate. It is massively disproportionate. And in an online space that doesn't understand how to define grooming, where we're canceling 19-year-olds for talking to 17-year-olds, where everything is some form of sexual assault, I don't think that the online discourse is prepared to talk about this in the right way. That's not to say that there aren't people who are groomed on the internet, because it certainly does happen. But every time this story or stories like this gets pushed as grooming, people sit on the sidelines and go, huh, and they care less about actual grooming victims. So, yeah, that's it, absolutely. When there are false allegations of grooming that come out, it only takes one or two bad interactions for people to tune out. You know how difficult it is trying to talk to young men about how women are actually sexually assaulted, and then all it takes is one. This is how prejudice works. People, it doesn't matter. You know, nobody's like a logical being. It takes one or two false accusations for people to tune out of the conversation. It's absolutely a real thing. It's just a real thing. It matters so much. It matters a lot. People, yeah, of course I'm gonna agree with myself because I'm fucking right. I don't give a shit. It's a big deal. People will tune out instantaneously. That's a fact.
I agree that people do sometimes blow things out of proportion on the internet.
Constantly.
But we also need to be careful that we don't downplay things as a backlash to the people who blow things out of proportion.
I'm not downplaying shit.
In my opinion, what she did with those children on stage is proportionally pretty similar to the movie Cuties.
Not even close. Are you kidding? No way. The fucking Cuties, they had their whole asses out. There's no way this is even close to the two. These aren't even close to the two. These aren't even at all similar. At all. There's no way that these are anywhere. This is disproportionate. There's no way. Okay? This is just not the same. This is a disproportionate, not even close to the same. It's not the same.
Both of them exploited children for people's entertainment. And exploiting child labor laws is illegal, and requesting obscene images from children is also illegal. So, no, I really do not think that people are blowing things out of proportion here. While this might not technically fall under the definition of child grooming, it is still very serious.
It's not even close.
I don't think we should just be saying, oh, Colleen's a stupid, silly goose. What?
Bro, if you're still in here, there's no way that you DM'd me saying that this was fucking good faith criticism. There's no way. There's just no way. There's no way you believe that. That is unironically hurtful to me. I'm laughing, but it's actually my feelings are a little bit hurt. I'm gonna be fucking real, man. My feelings are a little bit hurt because you said this is good faith, and then you keep doing this fucking dunk on me. I really don't ever think I've done that to you before. You know, like, I feel like that's so shitty. Maybe that's why I'm taking this so personally. But that's fucked up. Oh, this is good faith criticism. Like, 5 times now, you've referenced the fucking silly goose bullshit. A 6-hour goddamn live stream. You know, this topic, listen. At the end of the day, Adam is the victim in this situation. But this time, I want to do one thing people understand. People are like, what are you pretending that I'm coming into this like it's like fucking like shit, like it's just another day in the office. This is one of the topics that means a lot to me because it's a very loaded topic. I feel bad for Adam, but I also want to make sure we have the right conversation about grooming. People are upset about this topic. I'm definitely getting negative interaction in the things, whatever it's called, in the comments, and that's fair. But this is like, I already knew what I was getting into. It's already like a lot to deal with. It's annoying, you know what I mean? And it gets to everybody a little bit. And like, at the very least, I would have expected like somebody who's talking about a fucking good faith friend of mine to come in and like actually not fucking lie to me about it. You know, that's the shitty part. You're not some random fucking asshole in the comments. You're somebody I've known for like 3 years, and it just feels like you're trying to be uncharitable. You know? I appreciate the huge donation, man. I'm going to acknowledge it after this is done, okay? And I'm sorry. Let me finish this video.
What are you gonna do?
Adams, I don't think, is pushing any false allegation, but he happens to be wrong about this when it comes to himself. I know that sounds horrible, but again, I think that we're in a very new internet age, and the feelings, which quite possibly are traumatic feelings, aren't because of Colleen. Once again, it's because of the backlash over the past 3 years of him constantly getting shit on.
How the hell would you know where his traumatic feelings are coming from?
How the fuck would you know? Who the fuck are you? Fuck. How would you know where it's coming from? Now, I'm not trying to be an asshole. Everybody's like, well, how do you know? What the fuck? I'm a person? I don't know. I care about this. I'm very invested in the topic of mental health and shit. More than most people. Like, more than most people. Frankly. Oh, my God. Fuck. Listen, okay? I don't care how cringe this comes off, but I am so invested in these topics, and this is the primary content that I do. I've seen your content, Ryan. It's cool stuff, but this isn't the depths of the shit that you go into. I do it every day. I put my credibility online, and I know that you're going to be like, oh, your wife. My wife is a fucking social worker, and this is what we talk about. I'm married. We talk about mental health in such a deep, intimate way, in such a way where we express things to each other that we wouldn't want to tell other people because they're just so hurtful, right? We really recount our past experiences, and we reference that in relationship to mental health and all these different discourses. And like, I'm not fucking formally trained in anything, and obviously I'm going to get things wrong, but I mean, what I definitely invest myself more into these conversations more than anybody else at the very least. So to be like, well, who are you to say? I don't know, a normal fucking person that can look at a situation with a bad interaction between Adam and whatever and fucking Colleen, and then see the massive disproportionate assault that fucking psychopath content creators looking for fucking money are going to engage in over the past 3 years as a content creator who had to take breaks after having some interactions with different people because you got so much negative attention, who makes a video once every month, 3 months? How often do you make a video? You're gonna sit here and try to contest with me that you don't think that there is like there's a mental health factor that has significantly negatively impacted you. It seems like you just started making content again in a more reaction format, but you've been absent for how long? Like, how long have you been gone for? And you're going to, like, a month, 2 months ago, 4 months, 6 months, 9 months. So you post every 3 months until recently. You know how much it fucks people up when they get criticism. You know that that's a factor here, and you're just, like, refusing to acknowledge it. But you agree with me, and I know that you agree with me on that. It's like you're trying to disagree with me because people are upset with me. You know? That's what it comes down to. You agree with that. You have to agree that Colleen took advantage of Adam. I would absolutely agree with that. If that was the word being used, but like, yeah, maybe. That's not what's happening here. We're talking about fucking grooming and like child labor exploitation.
I agree with you that he should go see a therapist, and then his therapist can determine where his traumatic feelings are coming from.
Good. And then I also went on a whole tangent, by the way, which I think is important. I don't know if you bring it up, where like one of the aspects of trauma can be expressing your trauma in this way, putting all eyes in this. Like 5 years from now, like I truly believe that Adam might look back and go like really be upset about the way that he talked about it himself. I'm just trying to like try to be accurate, and that's also like a warning of like, hey, maybe like try to find healthy avenues to express yourself. Close friends or family or a therapist, because I guarantee you that people years from now are going to look back at them expressing their traumas on the internet, and they're going to look at that in the same way. They're going to cringe at it. The same way where like you can't sleep at night because you look back at something you really regret. So it's going to be like, ah, man, I really wish I didn't put this out there, because Adam is vulnerable. And everybody, I'm not saying Ryan, but so many people are just taking advantage of him by trying to make videos to make money. That's what it comes down to. I understand that everybody makes content to make money, but I just feel like it's a lot of these people are the same people who shit on him for the past 3 years. All of a sudden, like, oh my God, we were so wrong. Like, oh, where's their accountability? They just get to be like, oh, I had human growth. Oh, I'm virtuous. I'm better. They don't understand anything that's going on. They just know what people are in their atmosphere are allowing them to say.
You, as an outside observer, have absolutely no way of knowing whether or not his traumatic feelings came from Colleen's actions.
Sure.
And I think you are being extremely presumptuous to think
Okay.
that you somehow know better than Adam where his trauma is coming from.
There is a difference between being a person that is manipulative and creating a relationship through manipulation to extort something. I think that it's not unreasonable to say that in this inappropriate relationship that Colleen has with Adam, she may manipulate him in some capacity. There's a possibility there, though I think that that's overblown. However, that is different from explicitly creating a relationship with the intention to manipulate.
And one last time, I have no idea whether or not her intention from the start was to manipulate Adam.
Then don't talk. Then you're not mature enough to have the discourse. If you're going to make a video and your perspective is, I don't really know Colleen's position, then don't talk about it. Then don't fucking talk about it. Bro, what's the fucking parameter? What do I need to do? You disagree with me if you want. Almost 7 fucking hours of me investigating this situation to try to be thoughtful about every single thing. And what the fuck did you do? I don't really know what's going through her head. Did you read the fucking messages? Because you'd get a decent idea of what's going on. If you looked at the messages that were sent, if you looked at the way Adam interpreted it, if you look at he's all these different things, you should be able to ascertain a reasonable amount of intention. But you're just, I just don't know. That's your defense. I don't know. I don't know what's in someone's heart. How do you then don't talk about it? Because you can ascertain enough of what's going on in the situation through going through everything. I just feel like you just didn't, or you didn't feel like you had to engage with it because it doesn't matter. You knew that you'd be on the right side.
But I really don't care that much what someone's intentions are if they're
Okay.
breaking child labor laws and having sexual conversations with children. All right, at this point, I think I've said just about everything I want to say on the matter. If you want to learn more about the situation, go check out Adam's channel. And again, absolutely no hate towards Papa Gut. He has criticized me many times in the past. I just think that sometimes his centrist tendencies can...
Yeah, there it is. All centrist. I know what dumb fucking bullshit, your virtue signaling asshole fucking bullshit you're doing. His centrist tendencies. Papa, he's in the fucking terminally online political sphere where centrist is basically like a curse word. Oh, he's a centrist. He tries to fence it. Fuck you. Oh, I do not try to fucking. I'm not a fucking centrist. Like in this way, like, oh, you're a centrist. I'm like a left-leaning moderate. I believe in fucking universal basic income. What are you talking about? Every single day, I have like a disagreeable take from another one of my fucking audience. This centric shit is fucking mind-numbing to me. All I do is I have a take to my audience and get criticism. But all of a sudden, I'm a fucking centrist because it's relevant, it's easy, because you're fucking lazy. I'm a centrist. I get shit for tons of videos. I got shit for my Nick Merckx thing because I'm the centrist that says Nick Merckx is doing a fucking grooming LGBTQ dog whistle. Yeah, because that's my centrist take. I criticize Abba and Preach for being homophobic. That's 66%. Like, where's the centrism, bro? Where is it? If I was to fight, like, what do you think is my desired operation in the world? It's such a fucking lazy. Oh, you're just a centrist. On what? What makes me? And I know what you're saying. I don't give a fuck if people are like, "Oh, you're going over." Actually, he just said centrist. I know what he's trying to say. I don't give a shit about the optics. I know what he's trying to say there. It's this lazy bullshit. Don't say you're trying to be good faith and play fucking childish games with me. It's fucking pathetic. Centrist what? Oh, you're just a fence sitter. On fucking what, bro? You're the fence sitter. You're walking back the fact that you don't think it's grooming. You're now saying she thinks that she needs to lose her fucking kids, and I'm the centrist? Who the fuck are you? You can't even be strong enough to slightly disagree with the public narrative and say it's not grooming without having a fucking meltdown within an hour of it. You posted your video. You're gonna call me a fucking centrist. Insane. This is fucking insane. Oh, I'm in good faith. Fuck you. Do you have any other friends that you can maintain that have slight disagreements with you? God forbid that I care about what the word grooming means. Well, but according to you, intentionality doesn't matter, despite the fact that intentionality is like 90% of the left political atmosphere when it comes to people getting disproportionately jailed, people of color. But it doesn't matter when it comes to fucking Colleen Ballinger, because we don't need to be intelligent on bullshit drama that no other atmosphere wants to go into because they know that this entire situation is being blown out of proportion, and they know that people like you are going to do the same fucking thing that you're doing to me. So get the fuck out of here. I know it's, don't play the, oh, you literally said you're a political centrist. You're playing, I know what you're saying. Don't play this pussy fucking game, Ryan. I don't care how people perceive it. You're playing the fucking Hassan, fucking boomer centrist, like, oh, trying to be agreeable with everybody, Boogie 2988 perspective. I know that's what you're doing. So get the fuck out of here with this fucking walk back.
cause him to downplay the severity of certain situations.
Just finish it up.
Which is not good.
Cool.
Anyway, thanks for sticking till the end. There should be a new main channel video coming somewhat soon. I'm working on that right now, but I've really been enjoying making these videos for the second channel. So
cool. By the way, guys, Ryan thinks that Colleen should lose her children and that intentions don't matter. I agree. Let's just go back to the fucking draconian age when we had jailed people for minor crimes in the most disproportionate way. Fuck it. Who gives a shit? Here's my good faith criticism, guys. Let me end off the video for the 5th time that I'm going back to the first video that Papa got made where he said the term silly goose even though he's walked it back in 6 hours of other content and make it seem like he's a fucking asshole. By the way, I'm very good faith.